These are creepy TikToks that will make you rethink your whole reality.
This picture shows the Apollo 1 crew praying as a joke. None of them made it back alive. On January 27, 1967, the Apollo 1 spacecraft went into flames, burning the 3 crew to death.
These are eerie photos with a terrifying backstory, Part 1. This is a picture of First Lady Rosalind Carter in 1978, shaking hands with a serial killer named John Wayne Gacy, who was active in politics at the time. By the time this photo was taken, John Wayne Gacy had already killed 20 young men.
I'm back, it's your boy Fittie to the E, and today we're looking at this compilation together. So grab your water, your popcorn, whatever you want. If you guys like this chain, check the link down below. We have free shipping going out right now, so you guys can get a chain. They look really good. A lot of people have been liking them. We have a lot of reviews, so check the link down in the description.
Cannibal facts that'll eat at you for days. If you thought Jeffrey Dahmer was picky for not eating people with tattoos, Venezuelan serial killer Dorangel Vargas, who ate 10 people, didn't like his victims to be overweight because he thought that they contained too much cholesterol. On Thanksgiving Day 1991, 23-year-old Omaima Nelson stabbed her sugar daddy William before carving him up and cooking his head in a deep fryer and eating him for dinner. In the 1970s, Jorge Negromonte, also known as the Brazilian Sweeney Todd, would bake his victims into pies before selling them to local townsfolk. After murdering and eating his classmate in 1981, Issei Sagawa was released from prison because of a loophole in Japanese law. Since then, he's actually profited off the crime, writing books, appearing on talk shows, and starring in adult films where he bites his fellow co-stars. In 2001, a man named Armin Maiwis posted an ad on a website called Cannibal Cafe looking for someone to be killed and eaten. A German engineer named Bernd Brandis volunteered, and after photos and videos of the incident were posted online, Armin was sent to jail, where today, he's a vegetarian. In 1904, a Swedish sailor named Carl Pettersson shipwrecked on an island inhabited by cannibals. He was captured and taken to a local king, whose daughter actually fell in love with him. The two then got married, had 9 kids, and Carl became the new king.
I really wonder what drives a human to do that to another human. If it's survival of the fittest, you know what I'm saying? Like, eat or die. It comes down to a situation like that, you might fold. If there's a lot more animals, a lot more food in the world, why would you want to do that to a human though?
I hadn't heard of the story of Ori's chef, but after looking this up, I'm now really wishing I hadn't heard about this. The story is about this woman, along with a group of people who found her Facebook, as well as something very, very disturbing. To start this off, everything is very normal at first about her Facebook page. She describes herself as a banker, she's a mom, she's married to her husband, but what caught people's attention is that all of her friends are just other profiles of her. Someone calls her out on it, and she actually responds to it, and she says that she just makes extra profiles so she can get like in-game rewards for Facebook games, something like that. But this page gets a lot darker and a lot stranger. For one, it is like littered with graphic posts of animals. If you go a bit deeper, she also starts talking about wanting to eat people, specifically non-adults. This entire saga ends with one final post where she puts up a very, very chilling image. This photo. And this photo without context.
Facebook, yo, Facebook is kind of falling off. I swear to God, people don't really use Facebook anymore. It's usually like Instagram, you know, TikTok is a big one right now, but I like YouTube personally. Like, I just be on YouTube all the time.
These are eerie photos with a terrifying backstory, Part 1. This is a picture of First Lady Rosalind Carter in 1978, shaking hands with a serial killer named John Wayne Gacy, who was active in politics at the time. By the time this photo was taken, John Wayne Gacy had already killed 20 young men. This picture is even signed to John Wayne Gacy saying, "To John Gacy, best wishes, Rosalind Carter." Next up is a picture of serial killer John Edward Robinson, who is in the yellow sweater holding the baby named Tiffany Stassi, whose mother he murdered the day before. He later gave baby Tiffany to his brother, saying she was adopted. His brother, along with Tiffany, didn't find out the truth for 15 years.
Yo, that was a crazy twist towards the end of that. He really eliminated the mom and then gave the baby to his bro. Yo, I wonder how they found out though.
This story will send a chill down your spine. This is the ride. A guy named Brad moved to a small town in Georgia and was settling in, meeting his new neighbors. And he learned that most of the residents there believed that one of the back roads that led in and out of town was haunted. But Brad didn't believe in ghosts, so he never really asked much about it. One day, he went to visit a buddy who lived an hour outside of town. The two ended up going to dinner and stayed out late, much later than he had planned. And by the time he left for home, it was late, around midnight. As he was driving, the road was pitch black. He could barely even see ahead of him. He was almost home when he squinted to see a woman walking along the road alone. Normally, he would have driven past, but it was late and it was about to start storming any second, so he decided to offer her a ride. She got into his car and held her hands up to the vents to capture the warmth, eventually taking off her jacket when she warmed up. And it was good timing as it started storming as soon as she got in the car. She thanked Brad for picking her up and said her name was Eve and directed him to her home. Eve was kind and just seemed lost. They eventually pulled up to her house, she thanked him again, and she went inside. But when Brad got home, he discovered that she had left her jacket in his car. He wanted to return it, so the next morning he drove back to the house where he dropped her off and rang the bell. An older woman answered the door and he handed her the jacket. Brad said, "I gave your daughter Eve a ride home last night and she left this in my car." It was then the woman began to cry. As she wiped away the tears, the woman said, "My daughter Eve was struck by a hit-and-run driver years ago. It happened on that back road, and when she was hit, she was wearing a jacket just like this one." After that, Brad became a believer and knew why all the locals spoke so often of that road being haunted. He just had no idea that he would end up giving that ghost a ride home.
You know how trippy that must be? Just be like, yeah, you know, your daughter gave me this. And then you're just like, oh, well, she actually died wearing this. If I was the mom, I'd look at him like, was it you? I'd be a little bit suspect. That's just me.
Please do, Bunny Man. Something is not quite right with this rabbit. This is a human-sized bunny with extremely long arms and human-like hands. Looking at this photo just gives you the feeling that something is wrong. This creature was created by Trevor Henderson in 2018, and he also created some lore to go along with it. The story goes like there were two people hunting for cryptids in the woods at a campsite one night. When in the middle of the night, the guy woke up and heard the girl yelling for help out in the woods in the distance. He raced out of his tent and into the woods, and then he realized that he couldn't find the girl anywhere. And that's when he heard her calling his name again, but this time he heard her calling for him from the campsite. She had never left, and something was mimicking her. The man was about to run back to the campsite when something grabbed his ankle and pulled him backwards. That thing, obviously, was the Bunny Man.
What's your guys' favorite dog? Put it down in the comments.
Fairy tales with surprisingly dark origins. The Little Mermaid. The original fairy tale begins the same as the Disney movie that we all know and love. The Little Mermaid falls in love with a prince living on the mainland, and strikes a deal to give up her voice in exchange for a chance to live happily ever after in his arms. However, this is where the similarities between the two tales comes to an end, because in the book, she doesn't just give up her voice. It is stated that with every step she takes, it feels like daggers are piercing her feet. In addition, she also fails in her mission to make the prince love her like she loves him, so the evil sea witch gives her another ultimatum: end his life and turn back into a mermaid, or perish herself. Blinded by love, the Little Mermaid refuses the witch's demands, and is immediately turned into sea foam forever as punishment. Comment if I should continue this series and what fairy tale I should do next, and follow for more.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was like the Little Mermaid's actual story. It's not like the Disney, oh my god, everything's amazing. It's like, yeah, but like imagine being turned into something forever. You know how scary that reality is?
This is what would happen if all oceans on Earth froze. Okay, if more than half of the Earth was covered in ice, the Earth would reflect enormous amounts of sunlight. This would disrupt the planet's water cycle, and Earth would become as dry as the South Pole or even parts of the Sahara. Next, the oceans freezing over would most likely mean mass extinction of many species of animals. And without fish, seafood would no longer be a reliable staple of many diets. Next up, the oceans, specifically the phytoplankton, produce between 50 to 85% of all oxygen in our atmosphere, which means billions of people and animals would suffocate. And if you manage to be one of the very few survivors, eventually oxygen levels could go back to normal. But the Earth would never be the same again.
I like seafood, so if the ocean gets frozen, I'm mad. I'm like, yo, where's my fish at?
This is why you should never let your curiosity get the best of you. This story is called The Thing That Drifted Ashore by Junji Ito, and after reading it, I'm pretty sure I'm never going near the ocean again. So let's get into the story. One day, the body of a giant creature washes ashore and everyone in town goes to see what it is. And this creature looks absolutely grotesque. Its head is covered in eyes and it has transparent skin. Scientists believed it to be some kind of prehistoric life form, and its body was around 30 meters long. But as people got closer, curious to get a better look at this creature, they saw something they could not believe. They saw faces protruding from its skin, and they were human faces. So they decided to open up the creature to set these people free, only to find that they're the dozens and dozens of people who went missing during a shipwreck 7 years ago. Somehow, after they were swallowed by this creature, they managed to survive by becoming parasites, absorbing all the nutrients taken in by this creature. One of the people in the crowd even found his missing fiance inside the creature. So obviously they called ambulances to get these people medical help. But as soon as the people inside this creature managed to crawl out, they started screaming and growling. And some of their hands have even become webbed like fins. After investigating, it was determined that every single one of them were driven insane from living as parasites for 7 years inside the stomach of this creature. Follow for more stories.
That's actually a very interesting story. That's why I like Japanese story, because it has such like a twist on it. Like, I wonder how those people ended up evolving in just 7 years. Like, that's kind of strange.
This be evidence that Bigfoot exists. On October 20th, 1967, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin were riding horseback along the banks of Bluff Creek in Northern California's Six Rivers National Forest. All of a sudden, something in the distance frightened their horses, and this is what they captured on footage. Despite the fact that the clip was shot with 1960s equipment, the footage is the most famous, most debated, but never definitively debunked video capture of a supposed Bigfoot. However, many still wonders if these two men actually saw Bigfoot, and more importantly,
I'm trying to figure out what's the difference between Bigfoot and a gorilla. Let's say you see a big gorilla, like a big gorilla, huge gorilla. Are you gonna record it like, oh my god, it's Bigfoot?
To anyone who may be triggered by these topics, or anyone who's faint of heart, please keep scrolling. Serial killers from every U.S. state. Part 22. Michigan. Elias Abulazam, aka the Serial Stabber. He was known as the Serial Stabber because between 2009 and 2010, Elias Abulazam stabbed 18 people in Flint, Michigan. Of those 18, 5 people were killed. His stabbings became national news when he crossed state lines to stab even more people. Some believe his stabbings were racially motivated because the majority of his victims were African American. He was sentenced to life in prison for his crimes and remains there to this day.
I'm trying to figure out what we did to that dude. Like, why has it got to be majority us? People be tripping, bro. I'm like, come on, dude. Just trying to mind my business and you just want to stab? Come on, G.
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory part 2. This picture shows the Apollo 1 crew praying as a joke. None of them made it back alive. On January 27, 1967, the Apollo 1 spacecraft went into flames, burning the 3 crew to death.
Yo, that gave me chills, man. They were praying as a joke, like, and then boom. Damn, you know how messed up that must be? I mean, I don't know if that's messed up, but like, that's probably bad karma. There's a lot of things that humans can't see.
She had no idea that after a fun night out, something followed her home. This is the chilling story of the uninvited guest. For a friend's birthday, Chloe and a few of their pals decided to book a tour of a haunted home on the other side of town. Chloe didn't believe in ghosts or any of that stuff, but agreed and thought it would be a funny night out. The night of, the group met up with the ghost hunter Steve, who gave the tour. He was really quirky and was obviously a big believer in the supernatural. Steve told the group that through prior investigations, they found the original owners of the 1900s mansion tragically passed in the home, and since it seemed to be some kind of a spiritual portal. There were reportedly numerous ghosts there, some tied to the home and others that seemed to be there just to cause trouble. Chloe laughed and honestly thought the whole thing was kind of comical. They did the standard tour, turning off all the lights, and Steve placed groups in different rooms of the home, and just as she guessed, nothing happened. As she left, she made a comment to Steve saying, "Well, I guess the ghost took the night off." They all went to get dinner and drinks afterwards, and Chloe finally got back to her apartment around midnight. She got ready for bed, lay down, and couldn't have been asleep for more than 10 minutes when all of a sudden she felt the sensation that someone had sat down on the bed next to her. The bed creaked and she felt a freezing cold breeze. She immediately jumped up and turned on the light, but there was no one there. She tried to brush it off, woke up the next morning, and got ready to walk to Pilates. It was only a 10-minute walk, and she made a turn down an empty street when suddenly, coming up from behind her, she felt that freezing air again and then heard a mischievous laugh in her ear. She turned around and again, no one there. That night, she got into bed and after an hour of tossing and turning, finally fell asleep. Just a short time later, she heard the unmistakable sounds of her floorboards creaking in her hallway, as if someone was walking around out there. She froze in fear and suddenly felt that cold breeze again, and felt someone standing over her. She jumped up, turned on the lights, and again, no one there. She was so desperate the next day she called Steve, the tour guide, and told him what had been going on since she left. He didn't sound surprised at all and said that he had seen spirit attachments before. He also noted the fact that Chloe made a joke of the home and the ghosts on the tour, that a spirit may have heard that and taken it as some kind of a challenge. He told her she needed to speak directly to the spirit and tell it that it wasn't welcome anymore. The moment she did, the energy shifted and the activity completely stopped. She never joked about that kind of stuff again. You never know who or what may follow you home to prove you wrong.
The government is hiding something terrifying. The US Navy set off a 40,000-pound bomb in the Atlantic Ocean, 100 miles off the coast of Florida, saying it was just a military exercise. However, if you watch the footage, it really doesn't look like a normal military exercise, but instead something terrifying. It's known there is unknown creatures or aliens living deep in the ocean, so could it be possible that it really wasn't a military exercise, but instead a cover-up to take out a deadly threat in the ocean, knowing they can't tell the public because the panic it will start?
I mean, I kind of think that's a little bit messed up to know that if there's a huge creature that could possibly get you killed. A lot of people could go on a cruise ship, go fishing, go, you know what I'm saying, go in the ocean just to get obliterated. So honestly, it might have actually been a military drill if you ask me. I wonder if they ever found the bodies. Man, that should be so tragic, bro. Hopefully they died instantly and didn't have to suffer anything. For a second, I thought there was no one on it, but I also know that there was a kid that died I think last year or 2 years ago from a ride exactly like that one. So if you guys like that ride, put it down in the comments.
Just found footage tapes.
We actually saw that clip in another video. In my opinion, that's kind of weird and scary, man. A lot of times I watch these videos, I think to myself, like, what really promotes someone to do something like that and record it and send it to his homie Omar?
Today I'm going to be talking about one of the most famous alleged ghost photos captured to date. In 1976, Ed and Lorraine Warren were among the first to investigate the Amityville house in Long Island, New York. Less than 2 years after the DeFeo family met a tragic end at the hands of Ronald DeFeo Jr., which I will be doing another video on later. During the investigation, paranormal photographer Gene Campbell set up an automatic camera that took infrared photos of the second floor landing throughout the night. Many rolls of film were developed, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary at first, until they came across this photograph. There appeared to be a young boy in the photo, although there were no children there that night. It is believed by many to be the ghost of 9-year-old John DeFeo, and there's no denying it. There are some eerie similarities when you compare a photo of John DeFeo to the one that was captured. There hasn't been much explanation behind this photo, and many have tried debunking it, but today it still remains a mystery. So what do you think? Do you think that this is the ghost of 9-year-old John DeFeo, or perhaps something more evil pretending to be him? Let me know in the comments.
Man, ghosts or not, I'm leaving that house. After I see something like that, I'm like, bro, I'm not living here anymore.
This is the terrifying story about the Bunny Man. In 1902, This is the terrifying story about the Bunny Man. In 1902, a bus carrying mental patients crashed. All the inmates were recaptured except one man named Douglas Griffin. He was said to be extremely obsessed with rabbits, and in the coming weeks, rabbit corpses were found all over town. His thirst for blood did not stop as he then put on an Easter Bunny costume and interacted with kids in the local town. And after finding out where they lived, he would then break into their house and murder their parents with an axe, and then kidnap the children after. People then started reporting sightings of him under a bridge, and one night he was hit by a train and killed after trying to escape. However, to this day, people still report sightings of seeing a man dressed up in a bunny outfit, holding an axe under the bridge. And it is said if he makes eye contact with you, you are not getting out of there alive.
That Bunny Man story reminded me of clowns. You know the 2016 clowns that used to go around on Halloween haunting kids? Yeah, except the clowns didn't really go inside people's house hurting their parents and then taking the children. So I'd say actually it really doesn't remind me of the clowns. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Remember to check these chains out down in the description. We have free shipping and the chains are going, so get you guys subbed today. Probably gonna start making vlog content, but like with different crazy areas, probably like some haunted places, even some places mentioned in my TikToks. So if you guys like that, put that down in the comments. I'll still be doing my reaction videos, so it's not gonna be like I'm not gonna be reacting. I'm gonna be doing both come 2024. So if you guys like that, let me know your thoughts about that. Thank you for watching. Remember to check the chains out. Peace out.